Alright, what is up guys? We got David here, coach of the FC Popplio. We have week 1 of the NPL Minors. We're up against Ace of Base 99, or Ace of Bass, or whatever his name is. He's coach of the Anaheim Altarias, and you see his team down below. He's got the Hoopa-U, Zapdos, Mega Alt, Dougie, Metagross, Decidueye, Milotic, Darm, Stunfisk, P2, Mienshao, and Ambipom. Now, looking at team matchup, as far as his 12 versus my 12, I believe he has 12. Yes, he does, because he took Stunfisk and Ambipom as his carnies, so he also has 12. I couldn't really bring my fat things, because Mons like Milotic, Mons like Decidueye, Mega Altaria, Dugtrio, Hoopa-U, and even P2 to some extent. They all kind of don't let my fat things do anything in general. And mainly Dugtrio and Hoopa-U really prevent my mons like Roserade and Almamola and Musharna from really doing their job and doing what they want. So as a response to that, I decided to bring all-out offense, and in addition to that, I know from our last battle that I expected Ace to bring a lot of his more offensive mons, and instead he brought more of his bulk and more of his defensive mons against my HO. And to sort of prepare for his HO, for my HO, which I'm sure he'd expect me to bring, I figured he was going to bring his slower, his fatter mons, and therefore my mons aren't really set to outspeed his fastest threats. I guess we can jump right into it with Kangaskhan. As you can see, Kangaskhan is an adamant nature. We're rocking Power Punch Return. Ice Punch is to hit mainly Decidueye and to catch Zapdos and Altaria. All three of those, I believe, are going to be the main switch-ins for a Kangaskhan if it's not Milotic. And then Toxic to catch sorta any walls, so then I don't have to take any Rocky Helmet damage. We are adamant, not max speed, but we are fast enough to outspeed a adamant Darmanitan. We don't outspeed Jolly Darm, we don't outspeed max speed Zapdos, but I am completely willing to take those risks. I believe we still outspeed a Jolly Altaria, which I'm not expecting anyway. If Altaria comes, I'm really expecting it to be bulky, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. That's Kangaskhan. We move on to our Mimikyu. We are rocking Life Orb with SD, Play Rough, Shadow Claw, Shadow Sneak. We are max speed on Mimikyu because we want to keep our disguise intact, so we want to outspeed the fastest thing we can, which is a Jolly Darmanitan at 95. Mimikyu's only real job is if Hoopa comes, I need my disguise intact, because mons like Hoopa can really put a hurt on the team. Mainly a Trick Room or a sort of Scarfed Hoopa could be very problematic. If my Scarfmon gets weakened, then Scarf Hoopa can sweep. If my Sand is down, Scarf Hoopa can sweep. Trick Room Hoopa in general can really destroy my offense if like Gigalith is down and I can't like be slower than it. So I really needed Mimikyu's disguise intact for the match if Hoopa showed up. But aside from that, it has very powerful unresisted stabs and then priority to sort of clean up any weakened mons like Dugtrio. Next up we have a Rock Polish Lando I with carrying the Flynium Z. Adamant, much like Kangaskhan, to outspeed Adamant Darm. Potentially get a Rock Polish off if need be. 48 in HP just to sort of possibly live random things. And yeah, we're rocking Fly, Edge, Quake, and Rock Polish Sand Force, of course, because I need to run Sand Force, and we have Sand, so I don't know if I'll get to Rock Polish on anything, but Rock Polish is nice in case he ends up actually bringing his HO mons, like his more offensive mons, like a Scarf Zapdos, a Jolly Altaria, things like that, and he tries to bring more offense against me, which I'm not entirely expecting, but I didn't need coverage other than Edgequake for his team, so I figured I'd just toss on a neutral hit and fly, and then a rock polish in case of something I don't expect. So we have our second Sand Sweeper, which is Excadrill. We're rocking an air balloon to not get trapped by Dugtrio, and to not have to deal with a Mega Altaria Earthquake or any other random thing like that. Just standard spread, rapid spin, and then 3 attacks. Jolly, with enough speed to outspeed Hoopa, and yeah. Oh, it also outspeeds Adamant Darm. That's the one I was looking for. It's Adamant Darm and Hoopa. Yeah. Air Balloon, Sand Rush. Much like Mimikyu's Disguise, Balloon on Drill has to stay up if Dugtrio is there, or if Mega Altaria is there. If either of those are on his 6, then I need my Balloon intact for Excadrill to sort of be a backup check to both. Now, we can't have Sand Offense without having the Sand Setter, and that of course is our Gigalith. It is our only switch-in on this team. It is Fizdef. It can switch in on a Hoopa Unbound, it could switch in on Darmanitan, it could switch in on Metagross and Dugtrio and Altaria, Ambipom, and I use the word switch in very loosely because it comes in once. I don't need it to come in more than once. I can get up to my Stealth Rocks, which is very important. His defoggers are Zapdos and Decidueye, and that's his only form of real hazard control as far as I know. And I do expect one, if not both, to come. Earthquake is to hit everything, Toxic is for everything Earthquake doesn't touch, like the Zapdos, and Explosion is in case of there being a wall in front of me or something that I just no longer need my Gigalith for. You know, I'm not sure if he's going to double or if he's going to like try and set up on me. I can just go boom and then bring in my Sand Sweepers like Drill and Landorus. And then finally, to round out the team, we have, that speed investment down there is to outspeed Stunfisk. And then finally we have a Choice Scarf Thundi T, max speed just in case of Scarf Zapdos, Scarf Thundi to deal with Scarf Hoopa, U-turn kills after rocks, regardless of, at least on a 0 HP Hoopa. I don't know about like higher percentages. If it's Scarfed, I'm assuming it's 0 HP. U-turn, T-Bolt, Sludge Wave, Dark Pulse. Dark Pulse is for general everything that's not named, mainly the P2 and the Hoopa and the Decidueye. Sludge Wave is for the Altaria, of course, as a sort of backup check in case of DD. And Thunderbolt for general stab. I can't really click Thunderbolt if he brings P2 or Dugtrio, because then I'm sort of trapped. Well, not trapped. Let me rephrase that. P2 gets a free switch in every time, Dugtrio gets a free switch in every time, and both are very inconvenient for me to try and switch into if it's sort of a Trick Room P2 or just in general. So that's the team. I will catch you guys in the battle in just a second. And here we are. Alright, so we see a 6. He brought the Zapdos, he brought the Hoopa, he brought P2, he brought Decidueye, he brought Milotic, and he brought Dugtrio. Now, the big thing that kind of surprised me was that he brought all 3 of what I thought to be his Kang checks in Zapdos, Decidueye, and Milotic. My biggest fears were that either Zapdos or Milotic were Rocky Helmet, Milotic being Marvel Scale and potentially having Rest, which was very inconvenient for me. Dugtrio is very scary for my team, but thankfully Balloon Drill, Lando, Thundi, and Mimikyu do not get trapped, and Kangaskhan and Gigalith can both live a hit, barring any sort of like banded shenanigans or something weird or like a Sash Reversal. Dugtrio is also the only rocker, which makes me lean more towards the Sash Reversal set than the Banded set, because Sash Reversal lets him get rocks up. I'm thinking P2 is mixed defensive, or maybe specially defensive, or specially offensive with Trick Room. Especially seeing the Hoopa and the P2 right next to each other, that is my biggest fear. Trick Room P2 or Trick Room Hoopa can very easily sweep me. Decidueye coming means that that's his likely defogger as opposed to Zapdos. Zapdos is probably then static, but I don't know the spreads on those. Decidueye could be anything from offensive to defensive. It could be a Baton Pass set, could try and Baton Pass an agility over to Hoopa, or like a Nasty Plot or an SD over to Hoopa. So I don't know what to do with those just yet. But looking at the team, Thundy has a good lead because it's faster than everything on his team. I could just click U-turn, and barring like a Scarf Dugtrio lead, I'm not really in fear of anything. So we lead the match. He leads Decidueye, I lead my Thundy. I have Dark Pulse, I could easily scare him out. I'm just gonna go for it just in case. I want to see what his dedicated Thundy switch-in is. If it's the Zapdos or the P2, he obviously goes into the P2. I can very easily go into my Gigalith and set up my rock and sort of take this Ice Beam. I get crit, who cares? I decide to go for a Toxic here because this is Gigalith is obviously physical, and I want to see what his main physical check is, what his answer to this. I expected either Milotic or Decidueye to come in. I didn't expect him to let his P2 get toxic or take unnecessary damage if it didn't have to. So Decidueye comes in, and I have a decision to make. I'm expecting a Grass move, or I'm expecting a Toxic of his own. So my plan is I either go into Thundy or I go into Kangaskhan. Now, the reason why I make the play I make is because while Thundy is definitely safer for grass moves, he could also go for a Ghost move, predicting me to switch. And if he predicts my Thundy to come in and goes for a Ghost move, then I take a ton of damage onto my Thundy if it's something like a Banded or a Specs Decidueye. So I make the safe play. I decide Kangaskhan's my most expendable member. I don't really need him for anything. I just wanted her to sort of break down one of the physical walls on Ace's team, so then my other sweepers can do their job. So I decide to go into Mega Kang as Decidueye goes for a Spirit Shackle, which I'm immune to, so I still don't know what kind of set this is. I don't know if it's offensive or defensive. I see leftovers, and that's it. So expecting either Altaria or the Zapdos to come in, I decide to click Power Up Punch because I know I'm killing one of them by doing so. So Power Up Punch, I see he has Rocky Helmet, and he gets the first turn, he gets the static para on my Power Up Punch, which means I cannot outspeed and therefore live this next hit, which is a little unfortunate because if I didn't get static para'd, then I would have killed the Zapdos, being able to outspeed it most likely, just based on the damage. I should have been able to outspeed it and then kill it with +2 return. I wouldn't have taken this hit that I'm about to, and he would either have to sack his Zapdos here or go into a different mon to take a two +2 returns potentially. So return's my best play. He can probably just kill me with a T-Bolt and then live, just based on helmet damage plus Thunderbolt damage. But you'll see here that he decides to overpredict my Excadrill coming in, and he goes for a Heat Wave, which does not do as much as a Thunderbolt would, meaning I get both hits of my return off, and I get to take out the Zapdos, which is his only ground immunity, and I still have 3 turns of Sand Up. So I go into my Thundy to sort of scout out what his main switch-in is, what his next lead is. We basically reset the game. It's now 5-5, except he has a Toxic Decidueye, and my Gigalith is at about 70%, so I decide once again to lead with Thundy, He leads his Milotic. I decide that based on that damage that P2 did, I can very easily just click T-Bolt here with my Thundy, and if he overpredicts again and stays in with Milotic, then that's awesome. I potentially kill his Milotic with my Thundy, or maybe I get Mirror Coated in the dome or something happens, especially since Zapdos was the physical defensive mon. I'm not sure if Milotic would also be physically defensive. I expected it to be, but I wasn't sure. So I just decided to click T-Bolt. If P2 comes in, that's perfectly fine by me because I can go back out into Gigalith and then get my rocks up. I believe that becomes my play. So I go for a Thunderbolt. P2 comes in, eats that like a champion. I hard switch out into my Gigalith as I get Ice Beamed once more, and I decide to go for my rocks just like I said. Decidueye obviously comes in, and I believe I stay in here. No, I switch out because my sand is gone. I go into my Torn, into my Thundy, as I now see Defog. I expected the grass move this time or Defog, so I felt very safe in going into my Thundy this time. I didn't think he would go for a Spirit Shackle here. And so he defogs. That's whatever. I decide now is a good time to reveal U-turn because I haven't shown it yet, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So I go for a U-turn. That U-turn damage tells me that he is max specially defensive. I get to reset my sand. This is great news. I get to set up my rocks once again, I believe. And this time I decide to stay in and hit him with an EQ, sort of finally see what kind of damage I'm dealing. As he stays in Toxics, either predicting me to switch out or something, or I don't know what he was predicting, but he went for a Toxic and that was great for me. I really want to Boom, but I can't because it's a Ghost type, so I decide to hard into my Lando, expecting either a Defog or a Spirit Shackle this time. And Landorus is now inside, so we go for a Sand Force boosted Adamant Earthquake, kills the Fizz Def Decidueye. In comes the Milotic. I decide, alright, Milotic has two plays. It could either Scald or Ice Beam here, or maybe it could recover, but if it recovers, it's not really gonna, it doesn't really help it because it's taking sand damage and it's taking either an Earthquake or something. So my plays are either I go into Gigalith expecting the Scald, or I go into, Gigalith expecting the Ice Beam, or Thundurus expecting a Scald. And then I think about it, and I'm like, if I'm expecting the Scald to happen as the sort of mid-ground play, then staying in with Lando is my best play. Regardless, I only have 3 turns of sand left, so this Sand Force isn't really going to be too useful to me for the rest of the game. I'll have to reset it, and if I go into Gigalith now, I end up losing my sand, and that could just be bad, and I really feel like I need my sand for Hoopa and for P2 and for Dugtrio. So I figured that my best play is to just sort of fire off the strongest move I have, which is Z-Fly, and then if he decides to kill me with an Ice Beam, or if he crits the Scald, or if he's offensive or something happens where he lives and I die, then he is in range of Excadrill coming in and sweeping, or Thundy coming in and killing him, and it's just a good time for me. So I decide I'm just going to hit him with my strongest move. I do so, Supersonic Sky Strike him, does 65%, he Ice Beams me, I live with a low roll thanks to my HP investment. I had a 30% chance to live that, and he gets burned with Flame Orb, meaning that he doesn't heal up, and I can click EQ to kill him. In comes Dugtrio. I decide I don't really have any need for my Landorus anymore, so I sack it off. He goes for a reversal, revealing that he either A, doesn't have Stone Edge, or most likely B, he doesn't want to miss it. And reversal tells me he's sashed, just like I expected. Stealth Rocks is probably likely. I don't think he'll really go for it at this point. He doesn't need to. My team isn't really weak to it aside from Thundy. So I go into my Gigalith here, unsure of, I didn't want him to be like banded with the reversal for whatever reason, or maybe he'd hard switch or something, but I didn't know what he wanted to do just yet. But I knew for a fact that I wanted Sand Up, so then Excadrill can sweep it. It could kill the Dugtrio if need be. I could have also went into Thundy and clicked U-turn, but I didn't want to take any, like, I didn't want to force I didn't want P2 to come in and then me have to break Dougie's Sash later. I'd rather break it now, so I felt like Gigalith was my best play. So in comes Gigalith. I sack it off to Earthquake as I get my Sand Up, and I go into my Drill. I'm on a balloon, so he has to hit me with a reversal. I hit him with my weakest move. I decide to go for Rock Slide to potentially get a flinch, and it was doing about the same as a Rapid Spin anyway. So I break the Sash and I go for EQ, killing the Dougie. In comes the P2, and here's where I get a little worried. I'm like, alright, so my best play here, I can't really switch out. I'm kind of stuck here. He takes my Sand Rush, meaning that he's now immune to the sand damage. So I'm going for Iron Heads to try and flinch him down into EQ range. I get the first one, and I then get the second one, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on who you're asking, and I finish him off with an Earthquake. And so in comes Hoopa U. My best play is to Iron Head, but I felt really bad about flinching him twice, so I'm just going to EQ. I know it's not going to kill regardless of his spread unless he was a hasty nature or something. I let him kill me with Hyperspace Fury and let my Mimikyu come in, see the light of day. Its disguise is broken, and I whack him with a Shadow Claw or Play Rough, either one. Play Rough. It didn't matter because he either died to Mimikyu or he died to Sand. And that is the game. I guess to touch back on the Iron Head play, if I didn't flinch him twice, my plan was to just Iron Head him down, hopefully get him into EQ range. If not, then he probably recovers up, and if all goes according to plan, he heals up to about 70%, killing me in between, like, ice beaming me and like healing up when he starts getting low. I could see him at max being 70% because of Iron Head doing about 30. So he gets down to 70. I get to go into my Mimikyu SD. As he breaks it, I click Play Rough and potentially do 70% to the P2, maybe less, maybe more, who knows. But 2 Play Roughs would have definitely killed, and I would have still had my Mimikyu. And seeing as it was a Scarf Hoopa, then as long as Mimikyu got any type of damage onto the Hoopa, then Thundy killed 100%. So I changed the double flinch, maybe changed it to a 2-0 instead of a 1-0. Maybe it mattered more. I don't know his spreads, I don't know his movesets, but all in all, it's really unfortunate how I got the 30% roll on living the Ice Beam, and then I got double Iron Head flinches on him. I want to wish him good luck to the rest of his games, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.